Thank you for making out time. Okay, so please, can everyone just make sure they're on mute? Please, can everyone mute so that we don't have disruptions? Okay, great. So welcome everyone. Welcome to our first online WeViz meetup. I have Ken here, Ken Flerlage. He's a data Tableau Zen master for 3 years, and he's been in the IT space for over 20 years. So we definitely have a lot to learn from him and his journey. I am going to just quickly share a bit about what WeViz is. There's a bunch of people here that are regular WeViz attenders, and they know what we're about. Zainab, Damola, and a bunch of other people. But some people are new, and this is your first time hearing about WeVisualize. So I will just quickly run through what we're about, and I'll give it over to Ken. Okay, so basically, why did we start this community for data visualization enthusiasts? And so what I realized was over the years, the tech startup scene has grown in Lagos, in Nigeria, and there are a lot of communities where people used to meet up. But I realized that a lot of them were developer focused, and not everybody in tech is going to be a software developer. Not everybody is going to write code, right? There's so many other angles to work in tech, right? All of this information and data that we're generating from all of these amazing ideas, someone needs to be able to understand it, and someone needs to interpret it for the companies. So I'm like, okay, fine, maybe I should do something about it. And that's why, that's how WeViz started. So yeah, we're a growing community of individuals that are passionate and curious about data visualization, analytics, and its impact on how organizations are making data-driven decisions. Our goal is to create a space where people can come and learn, and whether you're a beginner or you're intermediate or advanced, you can find someone that would help you learn. Last year in December, one of our community members that attended, he's attended all of our meetups because we started July last year. He got a job as a data scientist, data analyst. I'm not sure which one exactly. And he reached out to me. I was like, based on the conversations he had with other people in the community, he got insights and ideas on what he could do, things he could learn. We're not saying that when you come to our meetups or something, because it's not exactly a training, right? So we're not saying that if you come to the meetup, you learn someone is going to train you, but it's that you have conversations with other people in that community that would spur you into making the right decisions that will be helpful for your career. Yeah, so how do we do this? Physical meetups. We've been doing that since last year. We had 4 last year. A newsletter that is still a work in progress. Online platform for sharing things on the go. So we have a Telegram group where people share stuff and people ask questions. So that is basically it. Our base is Lagos, Nigeria. There are a bunch of people here that are not from Lagos, obviously. But yeah, thanks for joining. Well, we're based out of Lagos in Nigeria. And yeah, feel free to follow us on Twitter, and on Meetup, and yeah, anywhere else you find us. That's pretty much it. We can take questions too after if you have any questions. So yeah, over to Kat.
All right, thank you, Abby. Let me share my screen here. Okay. Does that look great?
Yep.
Okay, good. All right, so thank you for having me and inviting me, Abby, and thank you to everyone for having me. So I think some of the things that Abby was just saying about community and the importance of that. Those are things I'm going to talk a little bit about today because I really agree with the importance of community and both local communities like you have with WeViz, but also being able to get in touch with the broader worldwide global community, and that's certainly something that I've been able to do. And I've had an opportunity to meet all kinds of amazing people through Tableau and through the Tableau community. I mean, I'm presenting for a group in Lagos, which is pretty amazing and exciting. So, if you've followed me or know anything about me and the blog that we write, you may know that I tend to focus on technical things. So generally when I present, most of my presentations tend to be pretty technical. But this is a presentation that is certainly not technical at all. It's really about how do you take what are the things that we can do to really sort of master Tableau, but also really any sort of data analytics platform that you may pick up and use. And I'll note that I gave this presentation for the Data FAM Community Jam a couple of months ago. I think and I hope that this is useful information for you. So Zero Zen, just really going to talk about my journey in learning Tableau, and then wrap it up with my tips for how to master it. So just a little bit about myself before we jump into that. So as Abby said, I'm a 3-time Tableau Zen master. In my day job, I'm assistant director of data analytics at Bucknell University. It's a liberal arts college here in Pennsylvania. And at the university, certainly Tableau is part of what I do, but we own all the data analytics platforms. So our data warehouse, our enterprise reporting, our data visualization, things like machine learning and advanced analytics. We own those platforms. So I do a little bit more than just the Tableau part. Although I will definitely admit that the Tableau part is my favorite. So just here's a snapshot of some of my Tableau public work. So you can feel free to check out my Tableau public page to see some of those. My recent stuff is more around how to do certain types of techniques in Tableau. So feel free to check that out. I've spent about over 20 years in information technology. So I studied computer science in college, and having studied computer science, I went into the job market and started off as a programmer. And from there, I got into a variety of different things. I did some database administration and systems administration, and as I was doing some of these things, as I was, building applications, for example, as programming applications, my mind was always really heavily focused on, making sure that the data was built and stored and processed in a way that made it very easy to then, analyze it and report on it and get insight on it, after the fact. And I don't know that I did that on purpose or it was just something that, my mindset was sort of focused on that. So when I got an opportunity to move into data analytics, as a full-time role in 2013, it felt like sort of a natural progression for me because I had always, thought about and considered the importance of using that data once it was there and available, right? So in 2013, I was offered an opportunity to lead a small analytics team at my prior employer, and I took that on. And we pretty much built the program from the ground up and did some really good things. And then about 4 years ago, I moved to Bucknell University, and I'm currently assistant director of data analytics. So, one of the reasons I wanted to provide this background is you'll see, I've spent my time and I've spent a lot of time in information technology. And I think one of the things that I think people often think when they're interested or getting into data analytics is they're concerned that if they don't have that technology background, they're concerned that they may not do well in that role. And so while my background is technology and I have that expertise around databases and can write code and things like that, I will say that is definitely, while it helps to understand how databases work and understand SQL and things like that. It's not required. I think if you look at some of the Zen masters, the Tableau Zen masters, we have Bridget Cogley, who's been is a 4-time Zen master. She was a sign language interpreter. That was what she studied in college, and that was her background. And now she's a brilliant data analyst. We have Josh Smith, who just became a Zen this year. He was a poet. So from poetry to data analytics. And Jeff Schaefer, which a lot of you may know, I think he's a 5-time Zen master at this point. He was a musician, still is a musician. In fact, I've got a member of my team who is a musician as well at Bucknell. So these are people that come from very broad backgrounds and come to data analytics from from these backgrounds and have gotten really good at it. And those backgrounds help to enrich the community and make it more diverse. And I think it's also just in general as proof that you don't need that, you don't need 20 years of information technology experience to get good at data analytics. You can learn the technical part, right? But your perspective and the your background is really just going to allow you to be even better at this, and again, enrich our community and make it a more diverse community. So my profession is also my hobby. I just love data, and particularly I love working with data in Tableau. So I've been using Tableau for about 4 years. On Tableau Public, I'm the second most favorited author, and am a top community contributor on the Tableau Community forums. And I'll talk a little bit more about both Tableau Public and the community forums here in a moment. I also write blog a lot on things generally around Tableau, but every once in a while I'll vary off into other areas. And that's a blog I share with my brother, Kevin, which we'll also chat about Kevin here in a moment. And I've been a Zen master the last 3 years. So I just love data. I love trying to find interesting things in the data, and particularly just love exploring that data with Tableau. So I spend a lot of my free time just tinkering with things and trying different things with Tableau. So a little bit about my journey of learning Tableau. So I'm going to focus this on Tableau, but I think, and hopefully a lot of what I'm sharing here is applicable to any data analytics tool, or really any sort of software at all that you might use. So if you don't use Tableau, if you use another type of data visualization software, I think and hope that most of this should still be very applicable to you. So when I was interviewing with Bucknell about 4 years ago, at the time, I was running an analytics group in my prior company. I had used competing software to Tableau, other types of data visualization software. So when I was interviewing with with Bucknell and learned that they were using Tableau, I thought, before I start, I could probably take some training courses and at least get a foundational knowledge of the software so that I can kind of hit the ground running. And I did that. I took an online course taught by Matt Francis. If you're active in the Tableau community, you might be familiar with Matt. He's a former Zen, does a lot of online training. So the course I bought was on Udemy. I think I bought it for $10, something like that. It was relatively inexpensive. His courses are now on LinkedIn Learning. Knowledge I needed for Tableau, and felt like when I started at Bucknell, I'd be able to jump right in and be able to be of value to the team. But as soon as I got there, I started a totally different project. We were changing all of our systems out, and we had to kind of take a fresh look at our entire data analytics platform. So I spent the first 6 months or so just working purely on this re-architecture of our platforms, and didn't really get a chance to work with Tableau at all at work. But a couple months into that, I was wanting to pick up Tableau and do something with it, and I had this idea for some data I wanted to analyze. And so this was 2016, and it was an election year, just like this year. And I was looking. I wanted to jump in and to try my hand at doing some predictions of the election. And I thought, what I want to do is actually publish this. So I thought I'll start a blog and do some analysis, but I wanted to have some visuals that were part of that. And it just made sense for me to use Tableau for a couple of reasons. One is for my training, I knew that it was good with doing maps, filled maps, which is what I wanted. I knew I could easily embed it into a website. And third, the main thing I think was it was just an opportunity for me to practice this tool that I was eventually going to need to use to some degree. So I tried my hand, and I did a simple little election map like this. And looking back on this is pretty simplistic. There's nothing fancy. There's no nothing technically challenging or difficult with this. But I was able to produce this in really quickly, and for somebody with very little experience with the tool, I was just amazed at how easily and quickly I could create this. So this is my first ever Tableau visualization right here that I published, and from here I was pretty much hooked. Right, software was so easy to use and so easy to create these incredible visuals to help aid in these analyses I was doing. So I just continued practicing. I started having these new ideas for things I wanted to analyze, and so I kept getting the data, and I'd visualize it in Tableau, do some analysis, and write it up and share it on my blog. And started to get pretty good at Tableau, at least sort of the basic things. So as I was doing this, I had no knowledge of the fact that there was a community of people out there talking about these things and sharing these things. But I had a Twitter account, and I was sharing things on Twitter and hoping somebody saw them and was interested. And if not, I didn't really care, right? But I kept practicing, kept sharing things on Twitter and LinkedIn, and hoping somebody saw it and got something of value out of it. But after doing that for a while, I started finding myself bumping my head up against what I felt like were limits of Tableau. And at that point, I was using, sort of the standard charts of what were available in Show Me. And I won't get into this, but I eventually found that you could do much more advanced things. At Tableau, I've heard it referred to as a data-driven drawing tool, essentially. And that's what I found it to be, and that you can basically create anything in the world. If you're interested in that, you can check out my Beyond Show Me blogs on my site, or you can check out the presentations I've done at the last 2 Tableau conferences, which get into that. So, I started to do these a little bit more innovative things, doing things that were a little bit outside the box. And I found that when I shared those, some people started to take notice. So in particular, there was a gentleman named Josh Tapley. He's the director of data visualization at Comcast in Philadelphia, Pennsylvania. And he reached out and said, hey, this is really interesting, intriguing. I think it has a lot of use cases, and I'm gonna give this a try at some point. And he probably didn't realize it, but he in reaching out to me and just saying those few words started to introduce me to the Tableau community. And so from there, I started to realize there was this group of people who were passionate about data analytics in general, that were that were sharing tips and techniques and helping each other. And it was, having worked in Tableau or in software and technology for over 20 years, I had never seen anything quite like this. I'd never seen such a passionate community of people around a particular software package. But people started to take notice of the things that I was doing. It started with Josh, and then Ben Jones, who was the leader of the Tableau Public team at the time, had taken notice of a couple of things I had done and told me that I was doing good work. Around that time, I got a visit of the day, a Tableau Public visit of the day, and then I was made a Tableau Public featured author shortly after that. And those are the things that sort of introduced me to this community, and these people that were willing to reach out and say, hey, you're doing good work, if you ever need anything, just ask, right? And that was really amazing. And I was able to to gain a couple of mentors, people who sort of actively mentored me, specifically Johnny Walker and Adam Crayon sort of took me under their wing and taught me a lot. And I started to discover all these blogs, people like Andy Kriebel and Andy Cotgreave and Eva Murray, Ryan Sleeper, Matt Chambers, Jeff Schaefer, and any number of other people who I started following their blog. So through this process of just engaging socially with people, I was building up this incredible community, much like the one that you've created here with WeViz, where if I had questions, I had people that I could reach out to. But I also was seeing the work that they were producing, and I was getting ideas for things that I could do, and I was learning through that process. And of course, so much of this was published on Tableau Public, which the workbooks are almost all downloadable, and you can sort of download them and take them apart and see how things were built. So through that process, through this community, the speed, the acceleration of my learning really increased, and I started to really start to master this platform. And there was a point at which I realized that I had something that I could share with the community, that I could start to, take that knowledge that the community was so wonderful to help impart to me, and then I could start paying that knowledge forward. So I started slowly transitioning into doing more teaching, right? So, it started out with some simple how-to blogs on my website. And then it turned into these full-blown things like the Beyond Show Me series, which talks about how to start doing more out of the box and advanced types of visualization. I realized that, I have this database and SQL background, and I realized a lot of people in the Tableau world aren't strong with SQL. So I started a series of blogs on SQL targeted at Tableau users. And so slowly, my blog started to sort of switch over from, me analyzing some interesting data sets and more to me helping people to learn the skills that I've gained. And that's everything from, sort of basic types of things, new features to very advanced technical techniques. I also discovered the Tableau Community Forum. So if you're not familiar with the Community Forum, it's a place where you can go ask a question related to Tableau, and even more generalized data analytics things in some cases. And people will try, people from community members will try to answer those questions. So I discovered this and started slowly trying to answer various questions. And what I found in this process was it was a way to help people one-on-one, which I loved. So I was teaching those people, but I was also learning a lot in that process because everybody's question, everybody's constraints, or everybody's situation is different, it's slightly different. So I was learning so much about the platform and so much about Tableau by trying to find answers to these questions and by reading other people's questions. So in seeking out opportunities to teach, I was also learning a lot in the same way. And I was, as all this was starting to happen, as I was sort of switching to becoming a teacher, I was honored with being named a Tableau Zen Master in 2018, and then the last 2 years since then. So with that story, I want to kind of now bring this into my 4 tips for mastering Tableau. And there's not going to be anything, I've sort of shared these tips already in that sort of biographical explanation that I've just given. But I want to sort of drill into these in a little bit more detail here. So let's move this out of the way. No need to take notes. If you just capture this URL, everything is there on this blog, my 4 tips for mastering Tableau. These are things I just learned in my process of working with the tool, and I found that these are really valuable tips. So I have a lot of people who ask me how to get better at Tableau, how to master it, and I always share these 4 things with them. So first of all, let's go, is train. So the first thing I did, as I mentioned before, was I got that training. So what I recommend is that you know yourself, how you learn best. I personally learn really, my learning style is I like to do sort of a self-paced thing. So a self-paced video online training was perfect for me. And it was relatively inexpensive as well, right? So that was a bonus. So that was my learning style, but other people would do better in a classroom environment. So there are in-person classroom training that you can do. Lots of companies offer that, or you can do virtual online training. So it's still a classroom type environment, but you're doing it from your home on a web conference of some sort. Other people like to go through books and do the exercises that are in a book. Whatever makes sense to you, there's an option for you to get that training. And if you check out the blog, I recommend a handful of books and training courses and things like that you can check out. The key thing, though, is that by getting this training, that's giving you the foundation, the fundamental knowledge that you need to build upon within Tableau. And so, make sure you get training, make sure that it's good, solid end-to-end training, and that's going to set you up for being able to build upon that knowledge as you move forward. From there, number 2 is practice. And quite honestly, this is the only way to get better at anything. No matter what it is, you really need to practice it. And I really encourage people, certainly if you're doing this at your job, you're going to have opportunities to practice. But I really encourage people to do more, to do it outside, to practice more, some outside of work as well. Your work, you're going to have very specific types of data, specific types of analyses. But if you practice outside of work, you're forcing yourself to work with things that maybe you're not so familiar with. You're also allowing yourself to be a little bit creative with how you visualize your data. Tableau Public is a great tool for learning Tableau specifically. It's totally free, has some limitations, and primarily just to prevent you from using it 100% in a business environment. But it is such a great way to learn Tableau. In fact, the first year and a half that I used Tableau was all with Tableau Public, and I really learned a lot from using this incredible free platform. So if you take that and then combine it with some of the community projects that are out there, that's a great way to practice. So 2 particular projects I like to call out are Makeover Monday. Makeover Monday, if you're not familiar with it, it was started by Andy Kriebel and Andy Cotgreave. It's currently being run by Ava Murray and Charlie Hutchison. And what they do is they provide you with a data set and a visualization that they found in the wild. Sometimes that data visualization has a lot of problems and things that you might want to correct if you were to visualize it yourself. So the idea is you take that data and you do a makeover. So maybe you make over that viz and you correct problems that you see with it, or maybe you just decide to explore some other specific story or area of that data set. And what's great about Makeover Monday is it forces you to work with different types of data, different data sets, in different areas of industry and public sector and things like that, right? And you have to be sort of creative. You have to think about what the best way to visualize this data, and it allows you that sort of creativity to practice those skills. Workout Wednesday is a little bit different. Instead of providing you that flexibility to create whatever you want, they give you a data visualization. This is a Tableau specific project. They give you work, exactly what it needs to do and how it needs to look, and your goal is to rebuild that workbook. So Workout Wednesday forces you to learn very specific targeted skills. One week they may focus on learning something with parameters. Next week maybe it's learning table calculation. So they're forcing you into very specific skill sets. And I always recommend that if you pair Makeover Monday with Workout Wednesday, you're going to get the best of both worlds. You're going to get that ability to sort of think about how to best visualize data and be creative while also working on these very specific skill sets. But if neither of those are your cup of tea, there are lots of other projects dealing with sports data or healthcare data, and if your goal is to help use your skills to make a difference in the world, there are great projects like Viz for Social Good and Data for a Cause who work with charities and try to help bring the community together to visualize some data to help bring help bring out some of the things that are going on in the world. And if none of those work for you, if none of those are of interest to you, then I usually recommend just viz your passion, right? So if you're passionate about something, if you love to travel, or if you're interested in finance, or if you're interested in politics or any of those types of things, and then find some data on that, and visualize it. And it's a great way to learn something about something you already love, as well as practice. And I think sometimes you'll just find that you get lost in the analysis as you're doing this because you're really enjoying the process. So find something you're passionate about and visualize it. Now, once you've practiced for a while, I usually recommend that you take, at some point, go back and revisit your training. So for me, about a year after I was using Tableau, I just felt like there were some things that I didn't quite understand. There were some gaps in my knowledge. So I went back to my training and I just did the whole training course again. And I found that it really helped to fill in those gaps in my knowledge. And one really good example are continuous and discrete pills, so your green pills and your blue pills in Tableau. I didn't get it at first, and even after using Tableau for a period of time, I didn't quite fully grasp the difference between those. But after using it for a period of time, and then going back and revisiting that training, it really started to click for me, and I understood it. So go back and revisit your training, and you can do it. You can do it regularly. Do it every 6 months or something, and go back and just go through that and make sure that you're sort of filling in those gaps of the knowledge that you may have missed the first time around. So once you've really started to get good at the platform and started to master it, I think it's really important that you engage with the community. So this is, I said earlier that this presentation is probably applicable to most data analytics tool sets. I think this is probably the one that where Tableau may not necessarily be true for every other piece of software, because the Tableau community is really so strong. Tableau set out to build a really strong community, and they've been really successful with it. And having worked in technology for over 20 years, I've never seen a community like this wrapped around the software. So this is really a big differentiator for Tableau. But find ways to engage with other people that are doing, that are building data visualizations using Tableau. So some recommendations I have are follow people on Tableau Public. So even if you don't regularly publish to Tableau Public, still go create an account and follow people. You can follow up to 1,500 people, I think. And I follow over 1,000 people. And on a regular basis, just go up to the activity feed and see what people are creating. And you can pretty quickly sort of scan through what people have published. And there will be things that catch your eye and that you're interested in. And you can favorite those, and then they're there for you. You can go back and refer to them. 99% of the workbooks on Tableau Public are downloadable. So if you have a question about how a technique was done, you can download it and take it apart and see how somebody created that particular chart or whatever they've done. But it's a great way to get inspired and to see what other people are doing and to sort of accelerate your learning through that process. I also recommend engaging on social media. There's a very active Twitter and LinkedIn community, and so it's just a great way to get to know people, and getting to know people there. You're building this professional network. When you get stuck on something, you have people to reach out to, and it's a great community, and people are always willing to help and to mentor you and do whatever they can to help you in your journey. Also join a Tableau user group. So, there are lots of local Tableau user groups. And I know WeViz is not specific to Tableau, but your group there is also great for sort of gaining more those generalized skills. And I'm sure you get into specific things around Tableau and other tools as well. But there are also, virtual Tableau user groups. So if you work with, say, Tableau Server, there's a great Tableau Server administrators user group, and there are healthcare groups, and depending on your industry, you can find a specific group to that as well. So join a Tableau user group and get to know people in your local area or in a sort of virtual community. And then also read those blogs, right? So I talked about some of the folks whose blogs I read. When you're reading these blogs, you're learning so much along the way, and you're also getting to know the people who are writing these. Most of these blogs are written by people who are active community members who you can engage with on social media, and who will eagerly answer your questions if you have any. So follow those blogs and read them on a regular basis, and use those to enhance your learning as well. And then once you've really gotten good at Tableau, I think it's really important that you start to give back to the community. So find a way to teach, right? So pay that learning forward. That and that's what I did, right? I learned so much from the Tableau community in my time of learning Tableau. I really wanted to make sure that I was paying that forward and helping other people who were in the same position as I was a couple of years ago, right? And there are lots of ways to do that. There are lots of ways to teach, right? I love to write, so blogging is a natural thing for me, and I think I've been pretty successful in getting and helping people through my blog. I also love the Tableau community forums. I love to help people in a one-on-one fashion on there as well. But some people don't like to write, so you can create video tutorials if you want, put them on YouTube, or you can choose to mentor somebody directly, right? Or again, you can use the community forums to help people in a more one-on-one sort of way. And I think the key thing is that, or one really interesting thing about this is that in teaching, you're also learning a lot at the same time. And I found that to be true myself personally, particularly with community forums, that I'm getting this sort of 2-for-1 benefit of this, that as I'm teaching people, I'm also learning a lot and increasing my own skill set along the way. So it's a pretty good deal that you're learning and teaching at the same time. So this is basically the the process that I followed to master Tableau, but I also want to share another use case or another example of somebody who's followed this. So first of all, I've been told that I look like Mr. Clean in this picture, and I don't know, I'm just not really seeing it. I don't know about you, but maybe if we add the earring, I don't know. But if you know me, you probably also know that I have a identical twin brother. This is Kevin. So he's my identical twin. And about 2 years after I started with Tableau, he expressed some interest in learning it. And he's been on this journey for the last 2 years as well. So it's been fun. We've been able to learn a lot from each other and work together. In fact, we've merged our blogs together into one, so that people were stopping, so that people didn't have to worry about which of the twins published which blog, right? But Kevin is a really good example of having used this same basic process to master the platform. And when he first reached out to me and said he wanted to learn Tableau, I didn't set out to put him on this specific path necessarily. It was just, I shared what worked for me, and he ended up following a similar path as well, and it really worked for him. So I want to do sort of a case study with Kevin of his journey and how he leveraged these 4 tips to really master the platform. So in February of 2018, just about 2 years ago, I gave Kevin a crash course on Tableau. He published his first Tableau public visualization soon after that. I encouraged him, that it was really important, even though I gave him this crash course, it was really important for him to do that training. So he took that same training course that I had mentioned before that I took, and really got that solid foundation. Kevin continued to do, to publish things on Tableau Public, and was doing some really amazing work really quickly. So within 6 months, he had been offered a job by Tableau Zen master Jeff Schaefer. And so he took a job 6 months into using Tableau. He took a full-time job as a Tableau developer, which is pretty crazy. In October of 2018, he started his blog. He attended his first Tableau conference, and he won a couple of community Visi awards. So these are awards that are given to the community by the community for people that are doing good work. And just 8 months or so into his journey with Tableau, he was winning awards for this. In May of 2019, he was actively joining the Iron Viz competition, if you're familiar with that, and he was finishing top 10 in almost everyone he entered. And he actually wrote a blog, was invited to write a blog on the Tableau website. In August of 2019, he was named a Tableau ambassador. He became the 4th most favorited author on Tableau Public. He's now the 3rd most, and he's catching up with me really, really quickly. I'm doing everything I can to fend him off here. And in November of 2019, he won 4 Tableau Community Visi Awards. I think they only give out 8 or something like that, and he won half of them. So this is a year and a half here, this journey and he really became a master of this software very, very quickly by following these basic steps. And this year, along with Abby, he was awarded the Zen Master privilege here as well. So now we have Kevin and I are both Zen Masters, or twin Zen Masters, which is pretty cool and pretty fun. And that was all within a relatively short period of time. So let's sort of kind of recap this here. So, and one last time, let's just quickly run through the tips for mastering Tableau. So once again, it's training. It's finding whatever your learning style is, getting that sort of foundational, fundamental training that you need in order to build on top of. And then once you have that foundational knowledge, find ways to practice. There's really no excuse for not finding a way to practice, because there's a million things you can do, both at work and outside of work. so many different community projects, so much publicly available data. Find a way to practice, and you're going to really start to get good at the software quickly. Engage with the community, learn from the community, follow people on Tableau Public, download their workbooks, read their blogs, ask people questions, do whatever you can to learn from other people who have been where you are and can help you to get to the next step. Again, I can't express this enough, that the Tableau community is amazing, friendly, helpful, and very willing and eager to help anybody who is interested and wants to learn more. And then once you've gained that knowledge, turn it around and start helping others. Pay that forward and do your bit to help other people that are now where you were a year ago or 2 years ago or 3 years ago, and help others to learn. And in so doing, you're going to be learning yourself. And that's an amazing way to just continue your own learning while you're helping other people. And with that, that's pretty much all I have for you. So if you want to get in contact with me, here's my Twitter handle, the website. You can feel free to email me. Any questions, anything you have whatsoever, feel free to reach out to me. I'm always happy and willing to help people who are on this journey of learning Tableau or data analytics in general. And with that, I don't know, Abby, I don't know if we had planned to take questions, but I'm happy, and if we have time, I'm happy to take any questions if anyone has any.
Yeah, sure. We can take questions. If you want, you can unmute. Thanks for the presentation, Ken. So either you write your question in the chat box, or you can unmute and ask a question. Okay, well, I have a question.
Okay.
You mentioned about like SQL and having SQL knowledge. How important is it to master like some bits of SQL? Do you strongly recommend for non-technical people?
Yeah. Yeah. So so Tableau is in general, it's speaking to a database, right? Even if you're talking to a text file or a spreadsheet, it's, Tableau is still kind of looking at that as if it's a database and trying to communicate with it. So, I think it's pretty important to have at least a basic knowledge of database concepts. I think if you're starting, Tableau, and if any of you have started Tableau without basic database concepts and knowledge, then things like joins are going to be confusing to you, and how tables and things like that are structured can be a little bit confusing. So I think it's important to have at least a basic knowledge of databases and database joins and fields and columns and rows and things like that. I think those are pretty important. SQL is it's the language that databases speak, and ultimately under the covers, it's what Tableau is passing to the database. So if you connect to a table and you pull in 5 fields and you create some calculations and aggregations and things like that, ultimately under the covers, Tableau and all of these types of data analytics tools are translating what you've modeled into SQL and passing it over to the database. Now, is it critical to be able to read that SQL and understand it? Not necessarily, but I think it's helpful to know what's going on and understand some of the basic concepts of it. But there are also some times where you just need to do something that is difficult to do within Tableau's data modeling tool, and you might need to do custom SQL, or you might need to write a stored procedure or something like that. So having that knowledge of SQL helps you to kind of take a step further in what you're doing with Tableau. That said, there's plenty of people that are really, really amazing with Tableau. I think there are even some Zens who, I think there are plenty of Zens actually who aren't experts in SQL. So I don't know that it's necessarily a requirement, but I do think it's helpful and helps you to really understand the language that Tableau is speaking alongside, or to the database. So yeah, I've got a series. I think there are 6 or 7 blogs on the website on SQL. So I think it's, check that out if you're interested in learning it. It's focused on Tableau users, so it tries to sort of connect it to Tableau.
Okay, I agree. I'm a Zen and I'm not an SQL expert, so yeah. Priya had a question. She said, "What do you think the most challenging part of learning Tableau was when you first started?"
Most challenging part. Good question. I mean, I'm not sure if this is the best answer to this question, but I think for me, one of the challenges I had was realizing, maybe it wasn't a challenge so much, but realizing that the Tableau wasn't just what is available in Show Me, right? So I alluded to this earlier. There was a point where I almost stopped using Tableau and taught myself D3, which is a JavaScript library for data visualization. And the reason I was about to do that was I was feeling limited by what I thought Tableau could do, because I was just using charts and Show Me, right? And so having, but then I finally sort of realized that you could build anything with a scatter plot, right? So if you had coordinates of things, you can draw anything on that pane, on that canvas that you want. And coming to that realization, which took me a while to kind of figure that out, coming to that realization sort of opened up this whole new world of advanced charts and custom charts that I could build in Tableau. So, and that does, learning that and figuring out how that works is a bit of a challenge. So I'm not trying to plug the blog, but it's just to help answer the question, that I wanted to share that experience with people. So I wrote a series on going beyond Show Me, so that if you find yourself at that point where you're, feeling like you're limited by what Tableau can do, go read Beyond Show Me, and you'll see how you can kind of transform this into a tool that allows you to build anything in the world you could imagine. So yeah, I'm not sure that's quite an answer to the question, but
okay. I think that kind of answers it. Someone said, Amran Sadiku says, how can an uncreative person build nice visualizations?
Sorry, can you repeat the question?
How can an uncreative person
okay,
build nice visualizations?
Yeah, okay, an uncreative person. I think we're all, I think if you think you're uncreative, I think you're being too hard on yourself. I think we all have, a certain level of creativity. I mean, I'm creative, right? And, so that I've been lucky. I think that's come somewhat easy to me. But, there are a number of examples of people who have reached out to me, who reached out to me years ago and have said similar things, right? That they're, they're not designers, or they're not, very creative people, and they struggle with, creating visualizations that are really engaging, or that look really nice and draw the user in, right? And for those people, it's a little bit harder. Like, it's a little bit more work, and they have to focus on that skill set. But there are a number of examples of people who I've watched over time, who really, really practice that and focus on it, and get really, really good at it. And I think it all comes through some of the things I've shared. If you're if you struggle with that creativity, that's a great opportunity for you to go see what other people are doing, right? So, see what people are posting on social media, see what people are creating on Tableau Public. I do this all the time and get inspired by people's designs and the way people have laid out their dashboard, and the way people use graphics and buttons and things like that. And take that inspiration and apply it to your own work. And and I'm not suggesting that you copy other people's work, but you can borrow design ideas and borrow ideas for certain chart types and things like that. That's why we're posting these things. That's why we're sharing these things on public, is to help other people learn. So I think seeing what other people do and borrowing inspiration from that is probably the single best thing you can do, and then focus on applying it in your own practice, in your own work, applying those skills. And even if you're not really, really creative, I think you'll find that you get really, really good at applying these basic concepts, and you'll get good, and you'll create some really nice designs and some really engaging data visualizations through that process.
Okay, thanks. There's another question from Zainab. Do you write code for the data visualizations in Tableau?
So Tableau is not you don't really write code in Tableau. You can, through like plugins to Python and R and things like that. But generally, you're not writing code. It's mostly dragging and dropping pills into the right places and doing things like that. There are, you do need to do some basic, what I'll call scripting through to write calculated fields, and sometimes those get kind of complex, but that's more like writing an expression or a function in say Excel or something like that than true coding. Although it is sort of like scripting, but generally speaking, you're not writing a lot of code. And I think that's, for me, what I love about Tableau is that because you don't have to write code, it's accessible to anyone, right? You don't have to be a programmer to pick up Tableau and start being really successful with it. And so anyone can pick it up, no matter what your background is, and you can create some really nice visualizations. There are times, I think, when code is required, but that's mostly for sort of the data collection part of it. So times when I'll write code are, say if I need to get some data from a website that's not easily accessible, I might need to do some web scraping or something like that. And I do, if you look at my website or my Tableau public page, I do a lot of, like reproductions of art. It's sort of data art, if you will. And that typically requires some writing of some code. But for most business type dashboard work and sort of basic dashboards that you're not even very complex dashboards don't really require much code at all. And to me, I think that's one of the big selling points of a platform like Tableau.
Okay. Thank you. The next question is: did you try any other data analytic tools such as R? Why did you decide to go with Tableau instead of the other visualization tools?
So I had worked with, at my previous job, I had worked with ClickView, which is similar to Tableau. It's a competitor of Tableau. And I've worked with a variety of other sort of traditional BI packages, things like MicroStrategy, Cognos, and a few other things. And so I don't know that I necessarily decided to go with Tableau. I mean, it was kind of decided for me when I got the job at Bucknell, and that's why I started learning it. But in all the tools that I've used, to me, it's the most powerful tool. I think there are some huge advantages of this tool over those other platforms, as well as over writing the code yourself. And I think I just shared some of those in answering the last question. the big thing being, the note, not having to write code. It makes it accessible to everyone quickly. And, I think one of the big problems with writing code to create visualizations is you need to go into that with a plan for what you're building, right? You say, I've got this data, I want to build this chart, and I'm going to write the code to build that chart, right? The beauty of Tableau is you don't have to have a full plan for it. You can connect to your data and just start exploring it. And that's what I do every time I get a new data set, is I just start trying different things, and I try to look for new insights, and I try to visualize it one way. And most of the time, the first time I try doesn't work, so I try another way and try another way. And over time, you start to realize, the best way to visualize that. So the data and explore it and try different things very quickly is really, really powerful. And it's not something you can do easily with R or Python or a programming environment. So that's one of the huge advantages to me of Tableau. And then I think the third thing for me is Tableau. I just love being creative, and so Tableau allows me to be creative in a way that other platforms don't. And I just love the way the platform thinks and works, and the way that you can make it do anything in the world that you want it to do, again, without writing code. And that to me is just amazing. And I've just never seen I think it's the best BI platform I've ever come across, and I just think it's an amazing platform, and I've fallen in love with it. So I don't plan to go anywhere else anywhere soon.
Okay, we have a bunch of questions.
Okay.
How do you find practice data to work with? What do you do when you have to analyze a question about an issue, but you can't find the data to analyze the question?
Yeah, so I mean, there's so much data publicly available at this point in time. If you look at websites like data.world, that's what they're all about, right? It's just people sharing data sets that they've come up with, and so that's a great way to get data sets. You have to be wary of the data sets that you get on a public site like that, because you're not sure exactly what the source is or whether it's accurate, and whether or not you want to make certain judgments or insights based on that. But government websites have lots of data, so like the U.S. Census Bureau publishes a ton of data. So data is just seemingly everywhere, right? And you just have to search it out. There are times where that data is not easily accessible. So I mentioned before that sometimes I have to write code to do some web scraping. I try to avoid that because it's a lot of work. But sometimes you might need to write code, and there are tools that allow you to do web scraping without writing code as well. So sometimes you have to do that hard work of collecting data like that. Sometimes I even just go onto a website and just start manually recording the data, right? Sometimes you just have to build your own data set to get that data. There are certainly times where I have an interesting question that I would like to answer, that I would like to analyze, and I can't find data. And not a lot of really complex things that I'm doing in a professional environment. But when I'm working with Tableau and trying to do something, for an outside project, I usually want to make it a little bit, more engaging and have a nice design and things like that. So I don't have a sort of a standard thought process that I go through necessarily. As I said before, I try to find the data first, and then I connect to it and start trying different things. I mean, I probably go through dozens of iterations of different types of charts before I land on something. And then I start to lay it out on a dashboard, and it just sort of, it just sort of flows, right? And there are times where, I've half done with a dashboard and it just doesn't work, and I trash it and start over, right? So it's just trying different things and those, and seeing what works and what doesn't. Every once in a while, I will draw something. There's Abby, she's back. Okay. I will draw something. I know a lot of people will draw what they want to build first. I don't think that way. I need to go in there and explore and try different things first. So I think it's really just a matter of what works for you, and what you find works for you as you're doing this. But another big thing, and I keep coming back to this, is I find inspiration from other things that people are building, right? So a lot of my design techniques are things that I've learned from watching other people, and I've just been able to improve my own design skills in watching what other people are doing and taking their workbooks and taking them apart.
Well, I lost the other questions, but there's an interesting one here. What is the major benefit of Tableau over Power BI? Is it like comparing a puppy with a baby elephant? I don't know.
Comparing a puppy with a baby elephant. So to be fair to Power BI, I have not used it a lot. I actually, when I was first starting with Tableau, I think it's been 3.5 years ago, something like that. Power BI had just come out, and I did do sort of a comparison of the tools on my website. So lots of people love Power BI. I think for me, what Power BI feels like a tool where it's sort of, you select a chart, you plug in your data, and you get a chart, right? You don't necessarily, and I may be wrong. Again, I haven't used it that much, but this is from my limited experience. You don't really know how that chart is being built, right? You're just plugging in your data and you're getting a chart, right? And that's great. You can create lots of really amazing things, and they have this cool chart gallery or catalog where you can go and download custom charts and plug them in. But those are built by the community, and sometimes they work differently than the other ones. And if there's sometimes maybe you have a place for 2 dimensions, but you really need a 3rd dimension, and so some of that inconsistency was always a problem to me. But the biggest thing for me was at least when I was playing with it, was to create custom charts. You had to write code, right? So if I needed to do something that wasn't available in that gallery, I'd have to use code to write that sort of custom chart. And I think for me, that's what I love about Tableau, is that you can create all these amazing things without having to get in the code, and everything is consistent across the platform. The developers are really good at making sure that they're not adding these little one-off features that don't work with the platform as a whole, that don't work with the foundation fundamentals of how the platform works. When you drag something under the color card, it's going to change the color, right? It's always going to work that way, no matter what chart you've got on there. And I just love that consistency of the platform.
Okay. There's a question here. Afolabi, I don't have access to your question. Can you see a question from Afolabi? I think it was relating to data science and starting out. If you can read your question out, that'll be fine, Afolabi.
I've got it here. I can read it. So as a newbie, is this the one from? Yeah. Who was it? Who was it again that you were looking at?
Afolabi.
Yeah. Okay. As a newbie in tech, that is learning the basics of Python programming and intend to delve into data science, visualization eventually. What training, sequence, or modules would you recommend for someone like me? Or should I just go straight to learning Tableau? I think it depends, right? I mean, so I will say that I would not consider myself a data scientist, you know, so I don't do a lot of like machine learning and, you know, advanced analytics, AI, and those types of things, although it's something that's on my list to learn. I think I think anything you're learning in this space is going to help you, right? If data visualization is something you want to learn, then I see no reason why you shouldn't just start learning it, right? You know, if you want to learn Tableau, then you don't need a whole lot of you don't need a bunch of other training before you learn it. I do think it, you know, as I said before, I think having some basic concepts of databases are important, but you can go read, you know, you go to a website and look up basic concepts of a database and read that in, you know, in 30 minutes and have that knowledge to get you started, right? So I think that's the only real sort of prerequisite for learning something like Tableau in my mind. Even without that, you can still learn it. So I would say don't hesitate, just jump right into it and start learning it. In learning Tableau, you're going to learn all kinds of things about data and data analysis and you know, data types and things like that. So definitely jump right in. I think it's certainly valuable to learn, you know, Python and things like that. Python's great because it's not just, you know, people use it a lot for data analytics like R, but Python is a generalized programming language, so you can do anything in the world you want with it, basically. So I think that's a great one to have under your belt. Another thing, you know, if you really want to get into, you know, sort of deep analysis and data science, then that's when I think, you know, understanding SQL is pretty important at that point. If you're going to really get into some of that low level kind of stuff. So I definitely think SQL is worth learning as well. And one thing I think that often gets missed is data prep. So there's another question up here about what material can you recommend for cleaning, for data cleaning in Tableau. So, but I think learning a data prep tool is really critical as well, because data never is hardly ever clean, right? You know, it usually has some problems, or you know, you want to enhance it with other types of data, or you just need to do some basic cleaning, or you need to whatever, right? There's things that you usually need to do. And Tableau Desktop's strength is the data visualization part, right? It's not the data modeling and cleaning part. So I definitely encourage learning a tool like Tableau Prep. Tableau Prep keeps getting better and better and better. And it's really easy to pick up and start using. Or you can look at a tool like Alteryx, which is a little bit more advanced, or, you know, any of these sorts of data cleaning prep tools, I think are really critical skill set to have if you're working in data analytics or data science in general.
Okay. That clarifies. Thank you. I think we've gotten through all the questions, and our time is already fast spent. So yeah, I just wanted to say thank you, Ken, for coming on to do this. This conversation was super helpful, and I guess I'm sure like people learned a bunch of stuff. So if you want to follow Ken on Twitter, I am going to put his Twitter handle here. Yeah, so you can go tweet at him and tell him thank you. And you can tag WeViz as well. Yeah, so if you want to join our Telegram group where we have like other side conversations, I will post it and send it to all the participants. Yes, so thank you all for joining. Thank you so much, Ken. Yeah, thank you, everyone.
Yeah, thank you for having me. I appreciate it. Thanks for inviting me, and thank you everyone for having me.
Thank you for participating, everyone.
All right. All right. Have a good evening.
You too. Enjoy your weekend.
Thank
Bye.
you. Bye.
Thank you.